What's up, guys? And today we are doing a tier list video. We are doing a tier list of all the ways of filmmaking, going from low budget, super low budget, making iPhone movies, medium budget with a crew, and high end like Hollywood productions with like $100 million, and just ranking every form of filmmaking, every form of going from like low budget from YouTube to like what you see in cinemas and Netflix, ranking them from best to worst here in this tier list video. And I created this tier list here, and you'll see this pop up on screen. Basically, going over everything, everything that I that came to my mind since I just created this right now. So I'll just show you guys like what I have here. From the top best, obviously, at the top you have the best ones. My favorites. I guess I'll just change this to favorite or whatever, since it doesn't really have to be the best way of filmmaking, but it's just my favorite. This is all just like my opinion and shit. Fun, whatever's the most fun. Difficulty, if it's like really difficult, I'll put in this category. Stressful or not for me. So I have like a lot of different opinions on like the ways of filmmaking. Obviously, if you do watch this channel, and if you are new here, I am a low budget filmmaker. I've been just creating stuff here on YouTube for free with no money, practically doing it with friends, doing it by myself, doing it with local actors nearby as well. And it's just taught me a lot of different lessons. And the more I make films, the more I just create, enjoy, and just making my way up that ladder. And eventually doing like a crew and stuff in the future. But just wanted to do this kind of video just to just for fun, I guess. So let me just kind of briefly go over what all these images mean, since like it might be a little bit confusing because they just there's not like labeled or anything. So the first one, obviously, you can't even really see it that well on the thing. But wait, if I zoom in, so the first one is a kid with an iPhone with his dog, basically, just making a movie on your iPhone by yourself, which I've done a few times here. A second one is making a film with friends. We have a kid here with a few friends of him, and then the third one is actually another similar one than the first one, but he's actually making a higher budget thing. He's got a nice camera, he's got a nice mic, and he's very focused in, so it's very professional. I actually labeled this one as professional, but you're still by yourself. So similar to the first one, but it's higher end. Second one is with low budget, around like probably $1,000 to $4,000 with a crew. There's some like mics here and a few other cameras, a clapperboard, but it's still low budget. You could tell it's in someone's house, and obviously it's not it's not Hollywood by any means. The fifth one here I labeled as low budget. So similar to this last one, but this is like low budget. What people think low budget actually is like between $10,000 to $20,000, which is not low budget, because you can actually nowadays you can actually turn that into something very, very, very valuable, especially since technology has improved so much. That money can go a long ass way. And here I have like a bigger crew with like in the studio, and just kind of like the silhouette. I thought this picture could look kind of nice. The second one, I mean, not the second, but the next one here is actually Sean Baker on the Florida Project. Now, the Florida Project has been a big inspiration for me because it was only made for like $1 or $2 million, and still it's like a lot of money, but very low budget in terms of Hollywood, in terms of their scale. Yeah, I have here just some $1 million feature, with a low budget, so they say low budget, with a crew with big actors like Willem Dafoe, and all the other people were involved. And then the next one after that is Pulp Fiction. I have a picture of Pulp Fiction and Quentin Tarantino, since this one's labeled indie movie. Now, indie movie, I kind of like label this also as like a $10 million feature. If you have that, amount of money, I think that's a very comfortable space to be in. And I'll talk more about it when we get more in depth. The next one here is behind the scenes on Do Revenge. So basically, like a big Netflix movie that have like $20 million within the budget, maybe even a little bit less, a little bit more, 25, 30 million. Something very comfortable. and also a very comfortable space. Like you're part of Netflix, you're part of HBO Max or Disney Plus. These big platforms that you already have the audience, and then you're just creating the thing there. And then the last but not least is the big Hollywood production, 200 million, 300 million, Avengers, big green screen, big time actors. You have everyone involved, and that is like literally the highest you can get in the industry. So literally from ground up to making $500 million movies. So yeah, we're gonna kind of rank them. The first one, going back all the way back to the first one, making movies by yourself on the iPhone. I've done this so much. I've done this a million times with the Sunshine State, my scratch feature film, and then my actual feature film, which I made in 3 hours, called The Movie. The Movie. Just making them on my iPhone. Literally just me going around the town, setting up the tripod, and talking to the camera. And I did a little bit of acting, but in some of these movies, I was genuinely just playing by myself. And a lot of these like kind of documentary type movies, I've done one called "Success Is Not Final," talking about the failure of my feature film that I did, and then also like I said, the movie, which is another documentary. Which filming by yourself is I'm a strong believer. Like, hey, yo, you don't need people, you don't need like all this crew. If you want to make something now, just make it now. And I've been such a big proponent of that because genuinely like waiting on people, genuinely like just sitting on opportunities does not help your career, does not help you out whatsoever. And for me, I've always just been like, hey, just fuck everyone and just make it by yourself. For me, like, it might not be the most fun, but it just gets my point across. And at the end of the day, I'm making a movie. This is like what I wanted to do at the end of the day. And just saying fuck it and actually just doing it legitimately and like without any bullshit. Like, you're making a movie on your iPhone. That counts, people are like, oh, that's not a movie. You're just making a movie on your iPhone. Anyone can do that. And that's true. Anyone can do that. And then if you upload it on YouTube, people will see it. I've had not like a lot of people see my shit, but like hundreds of people, hundreds of views, hundreds of stuff on my films. And that's 100 people seeing my movie. And it just goes to show, like, whatever you make, even in a limited time frame, even with limited budget, people will see it and people will enjoy it. So I'm gonna put this like really at like, I would even say like, I wouldn't consider this my favorite because part of the fun with making movies is that you do get to do it with other people. So I'm going to put this in the fun category because, like, it's not my favorite because one of the joys, like I just said, is making it with other people, getting to know other people. And I'm going to talk about that when we get later on in these other tiers. So the next one, filming with your friends. Now, filming with your friends, which I've done a lot with my past short films. If you guys know The Weekend, Pick Up at Arby's, those ones have been so much fun to do. And just making movies throughout like high school, also just making like little skits, little stuff for YouTube, even not for YouTube, even just stuff that we just made just because we wanted to. Um, those times were really fun. I really liked them, but I think I'm at a point now where my friends just don't want to do this anymore, and it was hard. It's hard to really accept because I wanted them to continue doing this because this was all something that I found enjoyment, but I think they just kind of got burnt out of it and they didn't want to do it anymore. But really, the times we did have making it were really great, and I really enjoyed making them. And I look back at like the times we were filming, Pick Up Arby's, The Weekend, even just like that limited time. There's just a few months that we were doing the films and stuff, making content. That was so much fun. And if you're at a stage in filmmaking right now where you're just filming by yourselves and you guys are all genuinely passionate about the subject, you guys have an opportunity of a lifetime. And really just like, just keep going, man. Like, if you can like make it with your friends, it just becomes so much great. And just like being dedicated to YouTube. And this is so hard because a lot of people do quit, and it's so hard to find people who are like, okay, let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going, because I'm genuinely like that way. So, but if you are able to find like a like-minded group that become your best friends and you're making content constantly, then that is like genuinely like valuable as fuck. And kind of like my dream going in like the future is like meeting a bunch of people, having the same similar goals, which I've kind of started now, but I just got to get more people in my circle, is that we just like start creating content, start creating movies, and then we just keep going forward. And then eventually, like down the line, we'll be in our movies like forever, kind of like the Adam Sandler effect, where he has all his friends, like they kind of like rose up together, and now he's continuing to make movies with his friends forever. So if you're able to do it the right way, it could be really valuable. It's one of my favorite ways of filmmaking. Also, like I said earlier, just the people part of it is really fun to do as well. Number three, like I was saying, professional, but you're still by yourself. Now, this is something that I did for my last project called The Vice Heist. If you're seeing this now, it might be on available on YouTube, so go check it out after this video. The Vice Heist, a Grand Theft Auto 6 movie, and I did this all without a crew. I did it with, actors and people are obviously in the movie, but I didn't have a crew. I didn't have producers. I didn't have editors. I did have like editor help, but that doesn't count. I didn't have a gaffer. I didn't have a cinematographer. I didn't have a mic person. I just generally just like, I'm like this person. That's why I chose this image for it. I was like this the whole way, and just like I was directing the actors, just doing the cinematography and doing it all. Like I really loved doing this, and it was such like a big like learning curve, because when you're doing it all by yourself, like you get to learn like how to do the best shots and angles, how to get good audio, and it's all valuable because you know how to do these things in the future, and you get an idea how this person does this job, and like what to look for eventually in the future when you're hiring for these positions. Like what do I look for, and then like what do I look for in a film, how to make this shot look good. And really, at the end of the day, being a jack of all trades does eventually help. But obviously, in the future, you do want help. You do want people by your side and a crew, because obviously, as a director, you're just directing the crew also to make your vision happen. And for me, this wasn't like super stressful, but like it was stressful when I was making certain options and like going back and having kind of like the stress of like, okay, like I just directed them. I did the shot. Is it good? Like I got to rewatch the footage a few times, and then that could be a little bit like jarring. Like if I had a crew, with a mic person and then cinematographer, everyone's on board, and I'm just the director looking back and just like watching it all happen. I'm not really invested in the moments when I'm doing all this stuff, and that's why I don't like this point of filmmaking. Doing it by yourself, you're not that immersed in what's happening in the moment, and because you are trying to take care of people, making sure they get fed, making sure they arrive on time, stuff like that. Uh, but I think for this scale of project, I really nailed it off. I wasn't too stressed out the entire time. The times like I had a blast making it. I have a blast every time I make it. So I just want to make that clear. But in some situations it can be very stressful, but I'll just put this in the difficult category just because it was difficult at the end of the day. It was hard. It was hard to make this project. But in the end, it came out amazing. It came out great, and I'm glad I did it. So, all right, next up, we got the low budget feature or low budget short or whatever you want to call it, because this is a category like you're doing a low budget thing between $1,000 and $4,000. And this is just stuff I kind of came up in my head. This kind of like whole tier list, but basically it's like doing something small with a few $1,000s. So basically, I've done these three things. I've never done these things. So, but my goal for the future is, that's why I put these in order. Also, I did this, by myself with friends, just me with no crew and just the actors. And now, obviously, this is what I plan to do in a few years, getting a crew for a few thousand, making projects for over five figures, and then also like, probably maybe doing this, which we'll get into later. But yeah, anyways, the few $1,000 project. Now, like I said, I don't have experience in actually making this, so I don't know how I'm going to feel when I actually do. But I feel like, being in charge of a crew, getting people involved, that was stressful because I tried to do this for the Vice Heist, but I couldn't. Like, I had a lot of trouble getting people involved, making sure they're paid and stuff. Well, the major thing I didn't have for the Vice Heist was money. And, having money is very important in film, but I think I want to show people you don't need money, but I'm not making an exception because money is important for making big films down the line. But if you're just wanting to get started, you don't need any money at all, and that's what I've been showing here for the last few years. But eventually, like if you want to get to the next step, you're going to need money, and that goes with the crew. People want to get paid, and that's the genuine truth when making a big project like this. But if you're able to find people who want to do it for free, that's also great because I don't think working for free is a bad thing because it's one experience at the end of the day, and like two, if you're passionate about it, and if you like the people and stuff, you're able to make projects down the line as well. You have connections, you have stuff, going forward, and even like the few connections I had with the Vice Heist, like that's valuable to me because like now I have like a circle. Now I have people to bounce ideas back and forth. So even with making like a low budget thing like this, I think it could be also very cool. Like, if you have a good script and stuff, shooting in your like local town. This is what I kind of imagine this thing to be. It can be stressful. Like it genuinely like could be like not like a train wreck, but it could go bad, it could go good. And that's the problem with between this stage and like moving on to Hollywood. If this stage doesn't go well, people give up. And that's like the thing that kind of like turns like the tides on everything. You know, for example, many filmmakers do this. That maybe they have done like stuff by themselves, and then a few projects by themselves, few fan films, and then now they're this stage where they're making a low budget feature, and it goes south, and they never do it again. This is the filmmaker nightmare, and even if it does fail, you shouldn't let that get in the way of like pursuing forward because I think at this stage you start to learn a lot of lessons as well. I've learned a lot of lessons with these projects, but I'm still like, there's still a lot of stuff in the future that I'm gonna be like, holy shit, like I should have seen that coming. Holy shit, like I didn't know that. Like there's gonna be so many moments where like, holy shit, like, I keep saying holy shit, but that's what I mean. Like you learn a lot of lessons at this stage, I think. So I think for this I'm gonna put stressful because I tried to make the Vice heist like this. It was stressful enough getting people involved, and that was my biggest struggle in the project. But I can't say for now because I just genuinely just don't know what I'm going to be like in that stage. And for the rest of these, I have a vague idea what's going to be like, and people I know and people who I've like interacted with have told me things about what it's like at each stage of this, and I just want to like just talk about it, give my own thoughts. Yeah, this next one here, so low budget feature where you have $10,000 between $10,000 and $20,000 to spend on this. You have a crew. You're going out to a unknown location. Let's say you're going to like across the country. No, let's not say that because that's going to be too much. Let's say you're going to another state to film with, and you got a crew. Maybe you have a good like Instagram influencer involved in the project or something like that, and it's a good like starting point. But for me, like if I had $20,000 to like do a movie, like I would still do it like this one, like the second one, doing it with friends, or even like the third one, just doing it by myself because that money can go so far, like on such like a little bit of budget. Because once you start like having crew involved, and like I said, like crew is good. Crew is good to have. You want the help, but if you're able just to do it by yourself and you have the money, dude, the possibilities are endless. You can like do like so many cool rental locations. You can get like so many cool props involved. Like really, like it becomes limitless because you have the capital to spend, and within enough budget, and you find the right people. If you want to rent out a location, boom, it's going to be yours because you have the money to actually do it and invest in it. So I feel like for many people, if they have the money, they would do it so differently. And for me, I'm like, okay, if I have $20,000, I'm gonna spend it on, I'm gonna spend it on the actors. I'm gonna spend it on maybe a good camera, maybe a few cool locations and a few cool Airbnbs, and working on the script. The script is nothing to do with the budget. This is just for like production wise. Shooting it in the same way I've done it, but maybe a little bit more professional. maybe having a few crew members, honestly, like having a few runners, maybe a cinematographer as well. But keeping the crew minimal has always been my forte and what I've wanted to do. But maybe I changed my mind down the line. Who knows? Uh, so for this, like there's two ways of doing it. And for other people, they're gonna get like a crew involved, and then they're gonna have a 5 day shoot. They're gonna have a bunch of like expensive rentals. They're going to pull permits. They're gonna do all those things that's gonna like burn the money quick. And the thing is that that's only possible once you're down to these stages. You don't want to be burning money. You don't want to be spending money on permits at this stage. You want to be just optimizing your money because $20,000 isn't that much money because you'll be surprised how fast that goes. You got to think, you got to feed people, you got to, transportation, uh, other miscellaneous things that come up, parking, everything factors in the price, and you don't want to burn through the money quick. So for this, I don't even know where to put it. Let's just say I go with my idea. I'm gonna like spend it my way, and optimize it for the way I want to actually make the film. I think it could be really fun. I think like if I shoot it exactly like how I've done in the past, the Vice Heist, the Sunshine State, and my other projects, if I do it exactly that way and I have that capital, the possibilities are endless. I want to put that in fun. So next up, we have the $1 million feature. So right here, we have a picture of Sean Baker with Willem Dafoe on The Florida Project. Now, The Florida Project was a really good movie. I liked the movie, and it was shot here in Orlando. I mean, 2 hours from me. I've seen a lot of locations, going up there, going to Disney World, and it was a cool, like nostalgic, like dark movie. But anyways, like I like the movie, and what I like about it is how they filmed it. And I was watching like a lot of behind the scenes videos and stuff like that. They had about $2 million to spare in the budget. They had Willem Dafoe, which is a good, great actor, amazing actor, and a bunch of great, first time actors. The kids were great. The girl who played the girl's mother, first time actor, she did a great job as well. I really love improvisation. So I think for this, I really just love how they shot with the actors, filming with local people, filming with like, and they did this a lot with like the extras. They just went out to a location and shot there. I'm such a big like fan of that because that's what I do for my movies. And seeing that, and even they have the money to like hire out extras, but this is a good movie that optimized the budget they had, and maybe like in the future with bigger technology, they can even spend more. Like I could probably make this movie with $100,000. Like maybe I wouldn't have Willem Dafoe in it, but I would be able to get a location. Like I was talking about before, minimalizing the crew, and having like maybe that will sacrifice a less prettier picture in the end. But for me, if I have what I want on screen, I'm not a big proponent of like, oh, the shot needs to look like amazing. It needs to look like Netflix, because I think I'm good enough to make good cinematography. I think I'm an excellent cinematographer. It's just me just patting my own back. But genuinely, if you see the Vice Heist, the cinematography in that's amazing. And that's just me with like a basic ass, like cheapest camera I can find on Amazon, and just like doing a little bit of color grading, and that's it. That's really it. So for the $1 million feature, like if I was picked up, like, spitball in here, was picked up by A24, doing a script that I was very passionate about, if I had one massive actor, let's say, I don't even know, Danny DeVito. I just saw him in Matilda yesterday. If I had Danny DeVito and we shot a movie here in freaking Miami, I don't know, some sort of gangster, like wannabe, I don't know, retired gangster. Uh, no action. That's such up my alley, like doing a film like that. And for this, I can see myself doing it in the future, like with Sean Baker. Sean Baker is such a great inspiration. Not a big fan of his newer movies, but like with the Florida Project, it was such like, yeah, it was a very special time, especially for aspiring filmmakers. So I'm going to put this in actually favorite, because this is actually my dream, is to make a feature film with a few $1 million, and it's not going to be anything crazy or big, but I feel like having that is it's good and having a good crew and stuff, and really having just like a good movie to make. It'll get distributed easily through maybe Netflix or maybe through the cinemas for a limited time. And I'm going to talk about the next few projects because it'll be interesting just to talk about my opinions on these. So for the next one, it is the indie level production. Let's say this is a A24 film with like $8 million, $10 million. Right here, I have a picture of Quentin Tarantino on Pulp Fiction, but let's just pretend this is a A24 film where a director has a few popular actors, and then they're doing a low budget indie film. And yeah, let's just give that out there. So for this, similar to the last one, but a little bit bigger. And the way I chose the picture of Pulp Fiction here because I was very inspired by how they made it, and just seeing how Quentin Tarantino. Just a side point. Not a big fan of like his actual movies. Like I like some of them. Some of them might be okay or like whatever, but I really loved how he started to get into filmmaking in his early years when he goes back to Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and even like Jackie Brown has some like good moments where like you could see like he is filming with like a lower budget, and like it feels like he's not even like trying to be part of like the Hollywood like how it was like in modern day back then. And it just feels like something I would make where it just feels very grounded and like very real. And it doesn't have like a limited budget because I mean for this it was counted as low budget back in the day, and I think it was like around 20 million or so. Few action sequences. uh this is also a good like dream project like I would have, like where I have like $20 million to spare, and like I was making this action movie or whatever. uh and I think that's enough money to get by and to actually like break through and get a good amount of rep. And I think for like examples like this, like um, the reason why I chose this is because I realized in the last like a few years, a lot of modern movies are spending way too much money on like projects. Joker Folia do $200 million. Why? There's two locations in a movie. Just like uh stuff like the Avengers, which we'll get to. I want to save that for later, but like I feel like you just don't need any more than like $20 million to make any movie, because if you strip back the layers, like I was talking about earlier, if you were filming exactly like how I was with the Vice size by yourself, with one camera, minimal crew, and you have $20 million to spare, what does that film look like? You can get like so many people on board. Maybe like you can convince a few major actors to be in the movie. You can get some really cool locations. You could do so much within the film. You have a bunch of money to spend, and literally, if you ball out with the 20 million, like let's say you don't spend that much money on like permanents, insurance, like those things are important. Don't get me wrong, but it's like for everything, every instance, every thing, everything does add up. And the more you can strip back, and the more you can just cut costs, do it, because that's money towards the project. That's money towards like props, actors, specific locations that really add to the film and story overall. So for this, I'm not sure how it's actually going to be like filming it. I assume it's going to be kind of a grueling process. But I feel like with the executive heads, you have a little bit of pressure, but not that much. So I'm going to put this at, let's see. I would say it's going to be a little bit difficult to actually get to the stage where you don't have that much stress. The good thing about this stage, you have the money, so there is no stressful factor about getting funding or whatever. That's the beauty with these stages, is that you're taken care of. But the thing is, you got to play your cards right if you want the film to come out the way you want. Dealing with executive heads, which we'll get into later, and but I think this is a comfortable position to be at. But it still will be difficult. Should I put it in fun or difficult? I think I'm gonna just put it. I think I'll put it in fun. Like it's gonna be difficult, but I feel like the way I would do it, it'll be so much fun. It'll be a lot, and I'm gonna just ball out on every dollar we have. No one's getting ice cream today. We're going to McDonald's and getting the $5 one. Oh my gosh. But like just cutting costs like every single way like would be funny as hell. Like. So this one I have a behind the scenes photo of Do Revenge. Just like a basic ass like Netflix movie. Something that has like I would say 20 million to 30 million dollars, but in a Netflix in a major studio frame. So like, okay, for this, you're a director, and then you're being hired onto this project under you know HBO Max or Disney Plus or whatever, and then you have like $30 million for the budget. Uh, the thing is, you're not in control of it. You're not in control of the story. You're not in control of what happens and the whole production overall. You're just there directing and just making sure the production goes good. Now, for this, I'm not a big fan of this whatsoever because for me, I really just want to be in charge of the movie, and I have stories to tell. I'm not like a director for hire or anything. I have stories on my own that I want to tell, and I don't like when people tell me to do things, and just maybe that is a little bit cringe to some people, but that's just genuinely how I feel. So for this, it gets a little bit tricky because you're kind of just like a cuck in the Netflix system. And the thing is, like, there's a lot of great Netflix directors who have like directed a few good movies and stuff. The thing is, you're just put into the Hollywood matrix, and you won't have like original voice. Your story won't be told, and you're getting cut down by executives and stuff like this. This stuff does happen in Hollywood, and you might be saying like, "Oh, shit, you're just a Hollywood hater or Netflix hater. You don't know how it's like." And the thing is, yeah, it is true. I don't know how it's going to be like in that position, but I just heard horror stories. What happens to executives, or what happens when you have executives over you, and everyone knows kind of like the Hollywood and how it all works. And the thing is, it is a business. And the thing is, with this, you're treating it as a business solely. And when you're in this position, it doesn't really become that much fun. You kind of like look back at the days where like, holy shit, like I was making movies with my friends on YouTube and just like doing like low budget things. I miss those days when it was like, good. And, maybe you would get a few $1,000s for, YouTube ad revenue and stuff like that. But it just doesn't become that much fun, and it just feels like you're just part of the system and just doing it as a job. Uh, there's no relation from what I'm talking about to the Do Revenge director or anything. I just chose this image just because this was kind of what resembled to me when I saw this image and what I wanted to portray in this position. So for this, I'm gonna put in not for me. Like for some people, they are completely happy with like just being a director behind the camera, not sharing their stories and not getting too creative and just doing the work and doing what's needed to get the product made. And that's just not for me because I want to make stuff that feels genuine, and I do want to get money. I do want to like make these companies money as well. If I do get hired by like A24 or something, let's say one day or whatever, obviously it's going to be a goal to get that company money, but it's also a goal to just make the good film at the end of the day and have a lot of fun because filmmaking for me has just always just been a fun aspect in my entire life. And that's why I have one of these categories as fun and favorites. It's because, there's this like balance, like yin and yang, fun or difficult, stressful, which leads me to my last thing, making a big Avengers or superhero or 100 to 200 to $300 million, big production, millions of famous actors involved. Let's say you're doing a Star Wars movie or, Avengers Doomsday or like, what are these other like, Superman, James Gunn, or whatever. This is probably what James Gunn's position is right now. He's done a lot of superhero movies and he's just done in the Superman movie. But the thing is, like, he loves like his position in the thing. He is a DC executive head, and he is in charge of all these projects. And he's also directing. He's also making it. He's also writing it and stuff. This is a high budget thing, and there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of stakes. That is the biggest thing. There's a lot of risk and there's a lot of stakes because now you're at a point now where you're like, okay, this is like too much money. Like, why are we spending like this? And like the thing is, it is kind of like it's kind of like the way it always will be. And the way what I mean by that is, you know, superhero movies, like they're not going to get lower budget. And the thing is, like, sure we can, but it's like people are going to be like, oh, why are we like lowering the budget on like, you know, these superhero movies when, you know, you guys have the money? Like there's no Superman movie gonna be coming out next year that's gonna be made for like $1 million. Like, could you imagine if we have like a Clark Kent movie that's like filmed like the Florida Project? It's like the super like indie movie who's like just going around the town for like 2 hours, crying and getting sad. So it's like this major drama, kind of like the Joker, but like the Joker was a drama, and it was $16 million, so it didn't need to be. But for a superhero movie, you want lots of action and Fast and Furious and stuff like that. I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. I love like these big franchises, and I don't want them to get lower budget. Like there's this mix between like indie films, which I want to make, and then like big projects like this, which I don't want to make. Oops. And you know, I did have kind of a dream to like actually make Marvel and Star Wars movies once upon a time, but the more I kind of fell in love with the indie project, the more of like the more fun, the more intimate these projects are, the more I'm like, well, when I get to these stages, it's not going to be that much fun because it's just going to be, you know, the run of the mill type thing, a lot of stakes, a lot of stress. I don't know how it's going to be like personally, but I feel like for James Gunn, he has made it. He is one of those people in Hollywood who is like, okay, I've made what I've wanted to make, and I'm very proud of it. You know, he has a big fan base. Everyone loves him and stuff. Maybe someone like Snack Cider as well. He's done a great job with his projects. And you know, I love his movies too. I've seen a few of them. I haven't seen all of them. He's made a few bad ones on Netflix. I've heard. I don't know. I can't say for myself. If you're giving me $100 million for me to direct your project, sure, let's do that. But I'm not gonna have that stake. I'm not gonna be like, okay, well, because the rule of thumb is you got to earn double in the box office of what that movie makes. And you know, let's say you have a budget of 100 million to have it a success, you gotta have over 200 million in the box office, which is like very normal. And it's very normal for, you know, superhero movies to surpass that or even underperform. You know, it's a hit or miss market with a lot of these, you know, upcoming movies. A lot of them flop in the box office. A lot of them are successes. I think the Superman one was, I didn't look into it, but I think it was like success. I want parts of, you know, Hollywood that are nice, like A24, great example, you know, of like what I want. They give the directors like freedom, and you know, do they just give them the money? Okay, this is what you want, and then you know, just make sure, you know, your script is good. Make sure we can actually return an investment on all this, and you know, no one's gonna be breathing down my neck to like, okay, you gotta change this, you gotta change that, or whatever. But that happens all the time in here. There's this one TV show actually called The Studio. Actually, no, it was called The Studio by Seth Rogen, and then there's also another one called shit, I forget the name of it. But there's one on HBO Max with Richard E. Grant, and basically they are filming a Marvel movie, and it's just talking about like the stress about the executives and all this stuff. And the more I watch it, I'm just like, I don't want any parts of that. I don't like eyes on me. Also, I for me, I want to make a project. When I want to make a project, I want to be an underdog. I don't want any people to see it. I want to have just, you know, I don't want to share any behind the scenes photos until the first trailer comes out. If you know, let's say tomorrow I have 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and you know, I just get announced. You know, I'm a big, you know, filmmaker. I'm a big inspiration for people, and they announce at Marvel Studios tomorrow. Okay, Nick Parren is making, you know, the Wanda Maximoff movie. Yeah, they announced that, but there's so much pressure from not my audience, but also the entire Marvel audience, and having all the eyes on me before I even start the project. It's just stressful enough of it itself. I just want a film where I'm like, I just work in the dark, and like when it comes out, people enjoy it. And that's the way I'm going to be doing films from forever. Maybe I might change my mind. I'm still very young, and future me is watching this now. Maybe I'm cringing. Maybe I'm just in over my head. But this is the tier list. It took a little while, but I hope you enjoyed the video here. Let's kind of recap and go over everything and what we kind of talked about here. So we have our favorites here. Number one is with the kids, and obviously filming with their friends back in the day in high school, even just now, just making stuff with my friends. If all my friends want to make something now, I'm doing it. I'm doing it like now, and we're going out. I don't care if it's past my bedtime or shit, or if I got work tomorrow. Let's do it. Favorite number two is filming like with the $1 million feature with Sean Baker, Willem Dafoe, inspiration. Having maybe one or two popular actors doing a low budget thing in a location I know, and having crew, having that freedom, and making something really great at the end of the day. In the fun category, we have me by myself, just filming with the iPhone like I've always done. I might continue to do that forever because I just love making movies on my iPhone. It's just so easy. Like, just come on, just do it. The $20,000 project, which can be fun, but we are going back and forth. Like, it can be good, or it could be very stressful. Number three is the Quentin Tarantino Pulp Fiction indie level A24 style, where you have a lot of money to spend. I would say enough, like $20 million. I don't need to go past that. So that's why I put that there. Difficult, filming by yourself without a crew, but you're filming with actors and you're filming with like an actual story, like I did with the Vice Heist, and like I'm doing with my other short films I'm going to be doing next year. In the stressful category, we have the $1,000 to $4,000 project, where you're filming with people and then you're getting like crew involved, and you're paying for people. You have a limited amount of money. It's just stressful. It's just stressful just starting, and then this is the first time working with a crew and the gaffer, and then, oh, what does this person do? A clapperboard person. Oh, we need a runner. We need someone to get us coffee. Just like, it's just stressful at the end of the day. But once you get past this curve, you're kind of golden. If you can get past this, you're a true filmmaker. And the category is not for me. The Netflix style movie, and also like kind of like the big production Hollywood, Marvel or Star Wars type films. So let me know in the comments if you kind of agree. This is kind of a unique video. I just kind of thought of this right now. I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll just make a tier list video off this. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope you kind of found some insight into the ways of actually filming, and going from low budget to high budget, and just seeing all the different tiers. Because this has been inside my head, but I don't think anyone's broke it down like how I have in this video. We've been recording here for 46 minutes. I don't know if I'm gonna trim this down, or I'm gonna just like leave it like this. So I'm gonna kind of remove this right now. But thank you so much for watching. It's been a blast. But yeah, if you haven't checked out Device Heist, check that out. Link in the description. And subscribe to check out my other short films. I do podcasts once in a while. I do a lot of things here on YouTube. Keep making movies. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.